Boston is one of the oldest cities in America and a beacon of history, education, innovation, and opportunity. But living in this iconic city comes at a cost. Literally, Boston's cost of living is among the highest in the United States. But why? What makes living in this New England hub so expensive? Let's take a deep dive into the major factors that drive up the cost of living in Boston and uncover some lesser-known contributors along the way. 1. Limited housing supply meets high demand. First and foremost, housing. Boston has a housing crunch that's decades in the making. Despite the city's constant growth in population and economy, the number of available housing units hasn't kept up. Tight zoning laws and restrictions on development have slowed the construction of new housing, particularly affordable units. Neighborhoods like Beacon Hill and Back Bay are filled with historic buildings, which limits redevelopment opportunities. In these areas, historic preservation rules often restrict significant changes or high-density projects. Meanwhile, the demand keeps rising, driven by students, professionals, and families who want to live close to work, school, or the city's many amenities. The result? Skyrocketing rents and home prices. The median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Boston is well above the national average, and buying a home can easily cost over $700,000, depending on the neighborhood. 2. Booming job market in high-income sectors. Boston is home to a thriving job market, especially in sectors like biotech, healthcare, education, and finance. Employers like Massachusetts General Hospital, Harvard, MIT, and numerous tech companies draw talent from around the globe. These industries offer high salaries, which might seem like a good thing, until you realize it also fuels housing inflation. When high earners flood into an area, landlords and sellers can charge more, knowing there's demand from people who can afford it. This often prices out lower and middle-income residents. In other words, Boston's economic success has a flip side. It makes the city unaffordable for many. 3. Prestigious colleges and the student effect. Boston has over 50 colleges and universities in its metro area, including Harvard, MIT, Boston University, and Northeastern. That means tens of thousands of students coming in every year, all needing housing, transportation, food, and services. Students compete with local renters for housing, especially in neighborhoods near campuses. This extra demand drives up prices, and many landlords cater to students, sometimes charging more for shared apartments. Additionally, the presence of these institutions has caused gentrification in surrounding neighborhoods, raising property values and displacing longtime residents. 4. Limited land and geography. Boston is a coastal city with physical limitations. It's surrounded by water, with parts of the city built on filled-in marshland. Unlike sprawling cities like Houston or Atlanta, Boston can't expand outward very easily. That makes developable land scarce and expensive. This constraint means developers often have to build up rather than out, which is more expensive and often controversial due to concerns over neighborhood character or blocked views. Limited land means every square foot counts, and you'll pay dearly for it. 5. High property taxes and utility costs. Massachusetts has relatively high property taxes compared to the national average. In Boston, property taxes may be lower than in some suburbs, but when combined with high home prices, the dollar amount becomes significant. Utility costs also tend to be higher in the region due to the need for heating during long winters and the high cost of electricity in the Northeast. Many older buildings lack energy-efficient infrastructure, further increasing utility bills. 6. Transportation and infrastructure challenges. While Boston has a solid public transportation system with the MBTA, known as the T, it's aging and frequently criticized for delays, breakdowns, and underfunding. People who need reliable transportation for work or school often end up relying on ride shares or owning a car, which is expensive due to high insurance rates, fuel costs, and notoriously limited parking. Also, Boston's layout can make commuting challenging. The city's winding colonial-era roads aren't ideal for modern traffic volumes, adding to frustration and cost. 7. Healthcare and insurance. Massachusetts consistently ranks as one of the healthiest states in America, but it comes at a price. Healthcare costs in the Boston area are significantly higher than the national average. Private insurance premiums, co-pays, and out-of-pocket expenses can add hundreds or thousands of dollars annually. And for families, the cost of covering dependents in such a high-cost area adds a layer of financial pressure that can't be ignored. 8. Childcare and education costs. If you're raising children in Boston, childcare is a major expense. Daycare centers and preschools can cost as much as a small mortgage, and private school tuition, often sought after due to overcrowded or underperforming public schools in certain neighborhoods, can reach tens of thousands of dollars per year. Even though Boston has strong public education in many areas, competition and demand for top-tier schools drive families to pay premiums to live in those school districts, or opt for private education altogether. 9. Food and everyday living expenses. Groceries, restaurants, and basic goods in Boston tend to be more expensive than the national average. Supply chain costs, seasonal changes, and high business rents for stores all contribute. Want to grab a quick lunch? Expect to pay more than in most U.S. cities. Eating out, especially in trendy or historic neighborhoods, comes with a hefty price tag. Even grocery store staples often cost 10% to 20% more than the national average. 10. Gentrification and wealth gap. Many Boston neighborhoods have undergone rapid gentrification over the past 2 decades. Areas like South Boston, Jamaica Plain, and East Boston, once considered affordable, have transformed into hotspots with high-end condos and upscale restaurants. While this revitalization brings new business and amenities, it also displaces longtime residents. The widening wealth gap between newcomers and existing communities fuels resentment and puts pressure on the remaining affordable housing stock. 11. Tourism and short-term rentals. Boston attracts millions of tourists each year, drawn by its history, sports teams, universities, and charm. That means a robust market for short-term rentals like Airbnb, but short-term rentals reduce the number of long-term housing units available. Property owners can make more money renting to tourists, so they take units off the traditional rental market. This reduces supply and raises rents for locals. The city has passed some regulations on short-term rentals, but enforcement remains an issue, and the financial incentive is strong. 12. Taxes and fees beyond housing. While Massachusetts doesn't have the highest income tax in the U.S., it's not the lowest either. Boston also has a host of local taxes, fees, and costs that add up, such as parking fines, tolls, excise taxes on vehicles, and more. These smaller costs may not seem huge individually, but combined, they contribute to a higher cost of living. Boston offers world-class culture, education, and opportunity, but these come at a cost. Whether you're a student, professional, or longtime resident, the financial pressure of living in this iconic city is hard to ignore. So, what do you think? Would you pay the premium to live in Boston? Or is the high cost of living a deal-breaker for you? Let us know in the comments what other cities you'd like us to cover next. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the cities and economies shaping our lives.